Well, howdy folks, and here we go again. Another exciting weekend on the waterways. Only one regatta this weekend, but not only one regatta. It was a big one. The 2025 Rowing Victoria State Championships. A lot of action was happening up at Ngambie this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So it was a big weekend, action-packed. And of course, I am joined by our resident guru, Alan Crute, and Joe Heyman McNally. Hello, guys. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, Guy.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Good. How are you, Ellen?
Well, I'm all right, and I enjoyed Saturday. So, hello, listeners, and we've only got one big one to go. Oh, well, we've got nationals, but we've got one big one to go.
We have got we've got one big one to go. It is all coming to a bit of a head. For those that aren't really aware of how sort of the weekend unfolded, on Saturday was pretty much all the 2K racing, and on Sunday was all the 1K racing, so more the club events on the Sunday. You were up there, Alan, of course, on the Saturday.
I was.
I believe, by the account of things, I was meant to be participating on Saturday, but we won't go into that. There's some rules that jumped in and caught us out last minute, but that's the rules, and I am a stickler for rules, so I didn't argue the point.
Yes.
Anyway, how did things unfold?
Weather-wise,
firstly, how was it? It looked pretty good up there.
It was fine. It was a pond in the afternoon. It was about as best you could get in the morning, really. I mean, they were winning from lane 7, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
There were lots of surprises, which I think, is fantastic, particularly in quads and 4s, and to a lesser extent 8s. So I think Head of Schoolgirls is going to be fabulous, because I'm just writing the prelim tonight, and I'm sort of saying I've got a bit of a theme, but what I'm really saying is I think there are more girls this year who have a chance of finaling than in the past, because I think there are so many chances, which is great.
I think what's happening here, Joe, is that last year Alan had an exceptionally high rate, and I can't remember the number, but it was a ridiculous success rate. I think what we're seeing, Joe,
backing off.
He's already getting scared. He knows he won't be able to deliver on last year's form. So
yes, you're dead right. You read me like a book.
And it's been happening throughout the season too.
Well, can I just tell you, when Strathcona can't make the final of Division 2 quads, can't make the final, you've got a problem. Yep.
And when you're talking an 8-lane final too, mind you.
Oh, the 8 lanes.
Final.
When we had 8 lanes, it's just magnificent, which is why Rowing Victoria should continue with that format of where they cut out the prelims and the minor finals, because it was magnificent. I just thoroughly...
Oh, look, I don't disagree from that perspective. We can discuss this on our preview show coming up in 8 days' time, Tuesday week. But I'm certainly very much just attached to the Geelong concept, and I'm very much attached to the river racing side of things. Whereas Ngambie's a little bit more sterile from that perspective, and I think with an event...
You would have fallen in love with an NGS mother who I spoke to, who's starting a campaign to get the head of the river back to Geelong.
Oh, the schoolboys head of the river. Oh, well, I'd be right on board with that. Absolutely. I'd be front and centre on that one, but I'll tell you what,
I better introduce you.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's also a senior rower, so I probably won't need to introduce you, because you'll probably already know her. Just didn't catch her name. I should mention before we go on, I talked to the big boss, and he read my article on the failed Henley and said I was spot on. And he said it was worse than that. So that really means that I think the Henley next year will go through some changes. So we can move on from that, but that's just saying that we were accurate.
Yep. Well, it is. It's no good when these things happen, but at the end of the day, we are all humans, aren't we? And they do happen, and it is sport. God, not great. Not great. What do you reckon, Joe, about all of that?
Oh, I agree. Like, these errors can happen and mix-ups can happen, especially with the bow numbers and stuff these days. So, yeah.
And tell you, Joe, one school on the peninsula knew exactly what happened and was very happy that what happened. I was asking them why their seconds were beating their firsts, and then sort of real jocularity ensued after that.
Oh, well.
Opportune moment for some.
Yes. Anyway.
I'm scratching my head. School on the peninsula, who's that?
TC.
TC?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit slow of me, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all right. You're in business.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So, do you want to start with eights? What do you order?
I don't know. What do you think? You start with eights.
I think we'll start with the big bangers, shouldn't we?
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So there was one hard heat and one easier heat. Furbank, as usual, won their heat, but it was the easier heat and it was the fifth fastest time.
Yep.
In the final, St Catherine's won by 3 seconds from MGGS, then Geelong Grammar, which is pushing hard, and MLC were at the same time. You might see that. We've talked about this 2 or 3 times now. Those three, SC and the 2 M's, are most likely to make the Head of Schoolgirls A final. Grammar's been really strong, and you probably see there, Furbank was 707, LT at 711. One of those other 4 schools is going to make, and GC was 656, as you can see.
Yep.
Look, one of those other schools is going to make the A final, and you're going to get some very good schools that don't A final, which might be good for Nats. If we can throw a few grenades at the New South Wales schools, that would be good.
Yep.
I think, look, St Cass, I don't know. I mean, I just think St Cass look, 75% there. MGGS have this reputation of coming on in the autumn and taking all before them, and they're only 3 seconds behind, so that's, that's fair enough.
The length, that's nothing.
Can you see the times there, Joe? It's,
yeah, very, 3 seconds and another just under 2.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I mean, that was a great race. I mean, you imagine eight eights across the course. It was very exciting. Furbank won lots of heats in the eights. They just can't produce. There's quite a few of these schools ranked 4th to 7th, like LT and GC, that just, actually GC's more stable. LT's up and down. I mean, I just can't pick them. But I think the top 3 are pretty stable.
Yep.
St Cath's did exceptionally well, I thought. And in under 21s, MUBC sort of are now fit and raring to go, as you'd expect, and beat SC. Interestingly there, Caulfield Grammar won a heat, which I missed most of that. I must have been chatting, but they actually went over the line and won a heat. So they finished.
Where is this, in the under 21s?
Yeah, under 21s.
Right. It's got second here. Oh, well, as school, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. I see. Yep.
Which was very impressive, because they haven't really shown up the last few weeks.
No.
Grammar again were 3rd. I mean, Grammar are coming through looking like the 4th best crew.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So that's how I see that one.
The under 21s, that was in the morning, wasn't it? Because
that was in the early afternoon.
Early afternoon,
right. Because they'd put all the Friday events in the morning.
Yeah.
So the 8s didn't come on until about 10 o'clock.
Right.
So usually they're on at sort of 8 or 9 each. So that actually was good, because that kept the some of these 8 schools there for longer, which I thought was good. In Division 2, if we can go on to that, you'll see Geelong Grammar won that again.
Yep.
That's consistent. They never win a heat, but they strikes me as they're quite strategic. MGGS was second, St Catherine's third. Look, that's pretty well. I mean, Furbank again won their heat, but were fourth in the final. That looks fairly well aligned. I mean, if you were asking me this week rather than the 10th, who was going to win that ahead of Schoolgirls, you'd go for GG. Okay.
Yep. Right.
And MGGS, the problem is MGGS is running second in almost everything, but we know that school's got lots of chutzpah. Chutzpah. So you'd have to think they'd have a chance. In under 19s there, it was a brilliant effort from Loreto Ballarat, who put their first and second four in, and won easily from Genazzano.
7 seconds, a couple of lengths.
Yeah. From memory, that was Genazzano's Inters. That was one of those crews. I might be wrong there, I have to check, and then you had GGLT and so on. Loreto Ballarat are not strong enough to row first at eights, but they're definitely strong enough to row seconds.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. That row that won actually cost them a gold medal later on. I'll explain that.
Yep.
As we go through. Any questions, Joe?
No, not from me. I'm just ready.
You're going to fire up next time.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in the quads, remember that they do under 21s in the morning and they do Q1 in the afternoon. That's how it goes. So Gippsland Grammar, of course, 1 in the morning from Strathcona, Corowa, and then MGC's Inters. I ran into a very happy GG director of rowing late in the afternoon, so they were all very happy. That boat still looks like winning head of Schoolgirls.
Yep.
We've talked about that many times, haven't we, Guy? It's just looks okay. In the afternoon, Gigi did something quite clever. They put their best two in a double. They teased the opposition by not rowing the quad. And in the afternoon, Strathcona won from Albert Park College from Brighton. And then Corowa, New South Wales came next, which was interesting, in Corowa, Victoria. The thing there is that Brighton didn't match Strathcona again. Remember that Brighton at the Wendouree Ballarat Regatta came out and went bang and beat everybody. Hasn't happened in the last two regattas. They've been back a bit. So, an APC came second. So that's a bit of a surprise. You know, it's we're so used to Brighton winning and they're not.
Yeah. You've been a little bit on that bandwagon for a while now. That Brighton and.
Yeah, I mean they had the. I mean, I met the sort of head of sports there, who I've met before. If that's her title, and she's very impressed with the way the girls are going, but it just didn't work at the weekend. In Q2, you had 3 inter-crews, NGC, Furbank and Ballarat Clarendon, come in first, second and fourth. Yep. The only crew that's going to run ahead of Schoolgirls is APC, which has been winning. They came in third and looked good.
Yep.
Internet. Ever heard of that school?
There we go.
They came in second. Joe. Now, I must tell you with Internet, it was a funny story. I'd been around I'd been around the big school marquees, and I went up. I hadn't seen a Finton attend. Of course, they'd scratched from under 21s, which they shouldn't be doing because they're outmatched. And they rocked up about lunchtime, and one of the mums who I'd met before said to me, "Oh, can you tell me where the Finton tent is?" And I said, "I don't think there's one." Yeah. Anyway,
I didn't even have a tent set up. Joe, what was going on?
I don't know. I'm going to take notes on that one.
Yeah. Anyway, it didn't matter because I'd been around long enough, and at that stage, Joe had 3 layers of sunscreen on, that I knew where the shade was. The best shade under those trees were. So I recommended that she and her mates go there. Anyway, they did splendidly in an 8:32, beating that Haileybury crew, which I rank.
Yeah.
And of course, Ryton. So they've beaten Ryton.
Yeah, beaten Ryton.
And as I said at the start of this conversation, Strathcona didn't even make the final. So what I'm saying with that division is APC are technically brilliant, but the medals in that thing are totally up in the air.
God, I see.
I mean, would you? I mean, on pedigree, you wouldn't think that Fintona is likely to run second, but anything can happen. Do you agree?
Yeah.
It's quite possible. I mean, I mean, it's unusual that quads.
Yep.
You'd expect that to happen, but it's just a funny year. It's a funny year. I think it's because Ryton is so up and down, and that never happens with Ryton.
Yep.
And the fact that Strathcona missed the final is extraordinary.
It is.
Anyway.
Jeez. Anyway, yeah, I imagine they'll be back to the drawing board.
Yeah, oh, that's right. In fours, Ballarat Grammar reversed the Head of the Lake result, and I think that's mainly because Loretto Ballarat, who lost by 5 seconds, rode that under-19s event, which I referred to earlier.
Yep.
Genazzano were next, and then Clarendon. That race is really between Ballarat, Clarendon. Sorry, I beg your pardon, not Ballarat, Clarendon. Ballarat Grammar and Loretto Ballarat.
Yep.
Loretto Ballarat, even though they lost stakes, would still be favourites there. Under 21s was basically an MUBC Mercs thing. Went out and forget about the schools there. F2, Ballarat Grammar won again, as they did at the Head of the Lake.
What do you, just on all of this, what's the theory or what's the reason, do you think, that all the Ballarat schools are so heavy on the fours more so than the quads?
Well, because they still need to row fours at the Head of the Lake.
Right.
And
so is Head of the Lake only fours? They don't have fours?
At seniors it is.
Right.
And also, Ballarat Grammar's had some experience in the last 2 to 4 years of changing over to quads, and it's failed miserably.
Yeah.
And I don't think that any of those schools is dumb enough to tackle the quads fleet. Yeah. And if they're going to actually change, they go to 8s.
Yeah, of course.
So you occasionally see a Ballarat Grammar 8 and so on. So I don't see them tackling Strathcona or Ryton or APC.
You need the depth and the size to be able to do both, don't you?
Well, in theory they've got that, but I mean, why would they bother when they can go to nationals and find a much easier fleet to tackle with?
Yeah.
I mean, the fours fleet at nationals is a piece of pie compared to the quad fleet.
Oh, I imagine, yeah.
As I said, in the second division, Grammar, who won at Head of the Lake, won again. No real story there except Ballarat Clarendon, and I've already met them before, but they I don't know if I told you, but in the Head of the Lake final, Clarendon actually crabbed about 100 metres from the line. And were coming very strong. And I've re-met the parents, and she said that was my daughter. Anyway, no, I think that one Grammar looked quite good at. It's interesting. The fours look like, if you said to me at the moment, I think Loretto Ballarat will probably win Div 1, but Grammar are threatening. Genazzano have just fallen off a bit, but not too much. Double skulls have actually become quite fascinating, because I remembered something at the weekend that I'd forgotten, which we'll get to in a second. In under 21, in Division 1, Tavaski and Harrison, who are the guts of the Gippsland Grammar crew, they rode and won, which is not surprising, but they won't be there ahead of Schoolgirls. Whithouse and Tan were second, which are one of the favourites, and then you had others. In the under 21s, this is where the real story is, because I haven't seen Corowa in New South Wales row all year. Okay, I looked at the Head of Schoolgirl entries and basically said that Corowa, Glen Iris, Victoria, Whithouse and Tan were probably the strongest crew. And in under 21s at the weekend, they were beaten by Summers Hogan and Anastasia McFarlane. Now, these Corowa New South Wales girls we never see, but their record ahead of Schoolgirls is fantastic, and I went, and I know Summers reasonably well, and I've seen her over several years, and she was injured all last year. She didn't row. I went back 2 years, and when they were inters, they won ahead of Schoolgirls. Okay,
right.
So they beat the Corowa Glen Iris crew by 3 seconds. Now, I would respectfully suggest at the moment that those two crews out of about 15 entries ahead of Schoolgirls are your two. I don't see anybody even remotely close. So in that under 21 event, Hearn and Smith from Corio Bay won from an MUBC crew and a Windery Ballarat crew, but that 4th and 5th was the critical thing to watch. Okay. Right. Because I reckon that'll be an absolute ripper ahead of Schoolgirls. But, they'll be saying Coral with a C and Coral with a K.
Coral with a K?
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting lost in this something shocking. Joey, you lost as well because Alan's got a PhD in this topic, but I'm still...
Well, I'm jumping around to results.
Well, Joe, let me give you a thing. I went up to see Coral because Wesley Canny, the head coach, is an absolute fantastic bloke. And I hadn't seen them all year, so I went up to say hello and introduced myself to all the new girls. And I knew a few of them. And the parents, I know quite a few of them. And in fact, they asked me out for dinner.
Go.
How about that? They said, why don't you come? So they're really nice.
Trying to get some good word in on your blog, right? That's what they're trying to. What is it called? Something for what do you call it? Cash for comment? That was going on there.
No, it was really delightful. I just was absolutely knackered after 11 hours and couldn't do it. Anyway, the point is that I thought that division was going to be pretty boring, but the fact that those two are so close actually livens that up.
Yep.
So I think that's good. In single sculls, you had an ex-Australian rep and head coach rated Kafuri with a little ticker at 22 coming down the final 500 metres of the course. And
22?
21's by, 11 seconds or 12 seconds or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
And she's rated 22. And the lady that I won't mention her because I don't need to. So she's beaten Constantina and then Sadie and then Eliza Jenkins, but that just shows you how good Kafuri is.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I thought Jenkins did very well there. Ella Duran's finding some form, which is good for us. In Schoolgirls, KK Constantina won from Schlicht, so the form's not normal there. Very interestingly, Violet Whithouse, which is the Whithouse sister from the double, and a bit younger, ran 3rd, so she's an inter. And remember, I've been saying that Rio Smith is probably a fraction better than her, which has happened so far. Well, she's actually smashed Rio by a long chalk. So if you have a look at Rio's well down the list there.
Yeah. So
that puts that whole intermediate single scull into question, which is another one of these fascinating things that...
Rio's Sacred Heart, is that right?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, she is, but she rose for Corio.
They were close at the regatta the other weekend as our big states as well.
They were, weren't they? Mm. Well, in this event, you can see that Violet's actually put some distance in there. Corowa's senior sculler, Robson, did all right, but that Woodhouse lass, I haven't seen row a lot, but gee, she did well. She came over like a steam train. So that was very, very impressive.
I find it a bit disappointing at state championships they don't have 500 metre splits. Because New South Wales states they do, and in this instance they don't even have a time taken.
Mm.
I think that's a bit disappointing, to be honest.
Listen, my friend,
I'm not having a crack at anyone, but it's hard.
If you were at the Henley Regatta, the time the time folk didn't.
I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying that to divert us back to that conversation. I was leaving that one alone, but I think that there's certain things that
we should
help a little bit.
Yeah.
But the other argument is, well, hey, does it matter what the time is? Isn't it first across the line? I think more interesting for me isn't the finish time; it's the split time, which you don't see. This is nationals.
Well, that's what I look at nationals. I always look at that time.
Exactly, because that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, what's happened here?
So we actually have more single scullers who are providing us with more joy than before.
Yep.
It's just that we're not at the joyous level at nationals yet. The MUBC girls won the under 21 pair. St Catherine's were third and fourth, which was a very good effort.
Yeah.
Hang on, almost there. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Where
that's
are
not
we?
a bad effort, is it? The St Cath's girls in the pair, putting Mercantile behind them quite comfortably.
Yeah, Mercs are not that strong this year. Well, in that pair, you've got the centre of optimism, plus the daughter of an Australian rep, so that you've got a bit of class there.
Yep.
And in the other St Catherine's pair, you've got what I think is one of their best rowers in their 8, and a very handy other. So they could row at nationals and do quite well, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good. So that's about it, isn't it? I mean,
well, it was only one regatta, of course, and it was all the senior boats on the water. So it is a bit shorter and sweeter, but I've got to say I'm equally as lost. So
that's all right.
There's a lot going on, isn't there?
I met some interesting crews. I met the Genazzano Inters, they were a good fun group.
Yeah.
Who else did I meet?
You were talking up Genzano earlier on.
I think that program is in recovery.
Yeah.
And I think that's great because we need that school to be good.
Yeah, of course.
I think that we've had a few disasters in the last few years with schools dropping out, but there's some positives. There's some positives there. And I think Head of Schoolgirls is going to be more interesting this year simply because I'm going to have more trouble picking them. If I can't just go bang bang like last year, that's great for the entire regatta.
Oh, here comes the excuses again, Joe. He's big on it, isn't he?
I'm being.
The 8s are very close, I have to say. There's not a lot.
What's that, Joe?
The inter 8s, I think, are very
that's
close.
fantastic.
All the 8s, yeah. It is close.
Everyone wants to see that, don't they? There's nothing better than watching a close 8s race, that's for sure. Everyone gets up and about. It doesn't matter who's on the water. Everyone gets excited with the 8s.
Well, Joe, we had 8 across the course.
Yeah.
In that E1, and that was just.
Yeah.
You drive up there over the bloody potholes. In fact, I did a tyre on the potholes on the Hume. I had to.
Yeah, there's a few bit of that going on.
It's just a shocker.
Just on that 8s thing, I mentioned a while ago about doing some timing when I was doing the Scotch Mercs Regatta, but standing on that pontoon, that starting pontoon, when the 8s take off. It's quite amazing. You don't experience that unless you're obviously doing a task like I was doing. Even if you're in the boats, you don't experience that. You're only feeling your own internal thing. But when you're there and you've got 8 of these things all going off with the power, the noise is quite phenomenal. It's hard. It's very hard to explain. It really is.
Goosebump moments, I think.
It absolutely is. Yeah. And that goes all the way through the cruise. I'm not just talking about the men's first 8s. I'm talking about all of them because we've got 8 of them there. Because the boats, they make noise by default. You don't have to be on the river training to have one go past. You go, that sounds cool. Let alone 8 of them at race speed. It's something that that I don't think parents can appreciate really when they're on the bank watching it from afar. They don't realise the power.
Having said that, I spoke to a lot of parents at the weekend who have actually been up to the start at Nagambie.
Oh yeah.
I don't know whether that's the attraction of the alcohol.
Yeah, I think it's got something to do with the rowing club up there being in a location.
But they really enjoyed it. So that
Well, they do get a different feel. You will even from there, even though that's a fair way back and up the hill a little bit. But you still would feel that some of that energy for sure. It's pretty amazing stuff. I could keep going on about it, but I won't. But it is pretty amazing stuff. Joe, have you got anything else exciting to add over the course of the weekend's rowing on or off the water?
No, we had a weekend off this weekend, being in the inter-junior side of things. So we did lots of training, but kind of missed the regattas, to be honest.
Oh yeah, well wait a few weeks, you'll really miss them. But on all of that, what's the vibe? Obviously, you're only sort of connected to one school at this point. What's the vibe amongst the kids? 2 weeks out from the big dance, so to speak. What are they? I know what they're thinking. They're pooping themselves. But what is the excitement all kicking in?
The excitement is definitely kicking in, and things are definitely starting to gear up. The on-water training, like I know the kids are loving it at the same time, but there's all the talk about different crews and other schools and competitors, and I know a few girls from different schools, and the vibe does seem to be a bit the same across the board. So
yeah. In other words, they're all overthinking everything. Not realising it's a very simple thing. Just get in the boat and row hard, and if that's not working, row harder. Really easy.
I think there's a lot of, like Alan's saying, and I'm not giving Alan's excuse any credit, but there is a lot of close crews close together. So depending on the lineup on the day, it will be a really interesting day.
And things happen. Things happen.
Oh, sorry, guy.
Correct.
No, I was just saying, things happen. You might be all of a sudden, you might be thinking you're the 4th or 5th fastest boat, and that's what the season's been telling you. But a lot happens on a big race day. Nerves, the whole bit, and it only takes one little mistake. And
don't you think we're at the stage where the parents are sort of looking at the fleets that head of schoolgirls and trying to work out where they are? I remember at the weekend at the Corowa tent for the one of the parents of the Corowa double scull. I went through the whole fleet for them.
Yep.
And said, told them who their major competitors were. It was only one boat.
Yep.
Which we discussed earlier. It was the other Corowa. So there's all these parents there trying to work out where they stand. And that's part of being a parent.
Do you ever get challenged, Alan, by parents about, no, you don't know what you're talking about, there's X, Y and Z?
Well, I did last year when that lady from Furbank said her crew was going to be in the A final, and I said not, and I lost 10 cents. I don't tend to get, as I've got older, I've got less, I don't know whether I was ever confrontational, but I don't anymore, and frankly, no, I don't. I mean, look, life's too short to fight with or dispute some parent who thinks their crew's going to come 3rd or 2nd or 1st, and you think it's going to come 4th. It's not worth it.
No. And there's always an answer at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, and I mean, over the years I've got the runs on the board, and I just think that, good luck to them. I always, I know you don't think I'm being sincere, but if I'm proven wrong, I really like being proven wrong, because that just means something interesting's happened, and some kids that have got medals that didn't expect it at the start of the weekend.
I would have said, this time last year, I would have said, no, you're not at all sincere, but certainly I do know, over the journey that we've had doing these reviews and previews, that you actually genuinely do get excitement about not knowing the answers.
Oh, yes.
I think you find that much more interesting. What is going to happen, rather than, well, that's the result.
Well, it's coming, as you can relate to, it's coming out of a small school.
Yeah.
So the fact that Fintona came second at the weekend in that Q2 after, that's far more interesting, because that raises the point, could they medal?
Yeah.
They were shocking the previous regatta. In fact, their parents, I had to talk to their parents, they were saying that. And then their coaches came out afterwards, and I was speaking to one of them. That's interesting, because how do you rate them for head of schoolgirls? Question. how do you rate Strathcona who haven't even made the damn final?
Yeah, yeah.
And they've been one of the top boats. So that's what interests me. I think that's far Open is far more interesting this year than it's been for a while. We talked about the trifectas down in juniors and intermediates with Loretto and NGGS and MLC.
Yep.
Those divisions may not be quite as interesting, and we don't have as much information because of heat things and them not rowing as much. So, you might find Opens really fascinating. And as Joe said, those intermediate eights are an absolute whirl. I mean,
yeah.
And I think you actually might find in the second division there that the daughter of that famous radio personality might actually win.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It could happen.
Yeah.
No,
No,
well, he wears funny grey socks to the regattas, I discovered. He wears wine shirts, grey pants and grey socks with sort of, not like boots, so interesting.
Well, he could row himself, so
yeah, he could.
He's in a position to, I think, stamp a bit of authority. If
he does.
That's what we want to say.
Now, listen, are you going to wear a tuxedo at our next thing?
Well, I don't know. What is the dress code for the?
Well, you better tell us now.
I did dress it up, didn't I? Let's have a think about that. We'll think of a dress code.
Well, you better tell me beforehand because I've got the tux ready this time.
I'll give you a heads up. Oh, there we go. There's the
Joe, you might have to put on the wedding frock.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Frock up as well.
It'll be really interesting having Richard on the show.
Well,
Helen, did you notice that?
Oh, I was going to mention Richard.
Yeah.
He did brilliantly at the weekend. There were several times when I was thinking of things. I mean, I know I take a lot of notes for regattas, and I know he does too. And I was thinking of something about a particular race, and lo and behold, 5 seconds after me thinking of it, he'd mention it. It's almost like you had what's that thing where you've got like a mind men with meld
telepathic sort of
like Spock in Star Trek, and he mentioned things so many times. And he knows more about schoolgirl rowing than any commentator I've ever heard of. He's doing so well, and it was great. He just knows so much about it.
Yeah.
And it was just splendid commentating.
It does make a difference, doesn't it?
Oh, it makes a huge difference.
Makes a big difference.
The commentary. When he mentions, somebody who won 2 years ago and blah blah blah. I mean, it enhances the thing, but the fact that he, like in that Loretto Ballarat thing, where they rode under 19s and they didn't do well in the F1 final. I mean, a lot of commentators wouldn't even think about that, but he mentioned it. That was just one thing. I was thinking about that when they were coming down, and a few seconds later he mentions it. So he did that. That happened a lot. Yeah. So I was very pleased.
You're on the same wavelenth, that's the sort of thing.
Well, yeah, it's just he's thinking about why things are happening, and most commentators just go, so-and-so's winning, but he's thinking, which is great.
Yeah.
So you better think of some good questions.
We'll come up with something. Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, why have him on if we can't get some good info out of him? I reckon he's certainly...
he's a very bright boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And
you have to ask him about his transmissions business too.
Transmissions business?
His business is transmissions for heavy vehicles like trucks.
Oh.
So there you are.
This interesting thing you don't really think about in the rowing community is that everyone has a normal life too. Obviously it's students, but outside of that, all the other
I often ask what people do, and when they say I'm a lawyer, I usually back off.
Yeah, I was going to say, yep, next. Don't start me on that one. We'll get ourselves into trouble on that.
God. No, I sometimes do that, and sometimes it works really well, and I find out somebody's doing something really interesting.
Yeah.
Other times it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, I'll tell you what, we've gone on for an extra 10 minutes just
good.
Yabbering, which is good. That's all part of the fun, because it was a short and sharp one, being the state championships.
Right.
I think actually the other thing with state championships, as they had last weekend, I think was it the juniors or the weekend before, I can't remember, losing track, but there's more medals up for grabs. There's the silver and the bronze. And our under 17 boys were rowing on Sunday, and I very nicely, I was quite chuffed to be asked, as the coach came and said that, can you have a chat to the boys before they go on the water? So I gave him a bit of a rev up and just said, because, you know, you're sort of thinking, they're probably not going to get there, but they might come close. So, you know, there's 3 medals on the line here, guys, you know, and their eyes lit up. What? Oh, yeah. There's gold, silver and bronze. And they hung in to hold a bronze, which if they didn't realise it was a medal, they might not have, you know, done that little bit. And that's what's great at state champs and nationals is you get a real fight for third place, because there's a big difference between a medal and no medal.
Yeah.
You know, so you do get a lot more exciting. You know, you might have 2 at the front and then 2 at the back or whatever, and there's going to be a genuine battle, as we had on Sunday in our B8, which we got over Richmond.
Well, it was interesting under 21 single sculls, because I know the Barwin / Cardinia lass, Eliza Jenkins, I know quite well, and I know her parents quite well. The Paul thing was in a battle, and she ran 4th.
Yeah.
And, you know, she was rowing back. She did brilliantly, actually, probably outperformed, maybe. And she ran 4th, which is the worst place to come.
Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, it's the worst place to come.
Well, one would argue second is the worst place to come. Because second you could have got there. There's studies on this, though. There's studies of Olympic athletes that, and don't ask me to quote those studies, but I'm sure I'm sure I've read about this. There are studies to show that the bronze medalist is much more happy and content than the silver medalist.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because the silver medalist has fallen short of their dream, generally speaking, whereas the bronze medalist is most likely come in there and have snuck into that little spot and go, you beauty, I'm on a podium.
I haven't heard that.
Men's Australian 8, year 2000. Is that right?
Well, could be. I don't know. Do
Silver medal by this much.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's right.
I only know that because of family, but
Good memory. Actually, on that, look at this T-shirt I'm wearing. Obviously, this is not a good one for the main hunter there, but have a look a bit closely on that.
Oh, my God.
Oh, nice.
From
Australian rowing team.
From Paris. I got gifted a bunch of gear, and I get around the boat park wearing Australian team stuff.
Oh,
a little bit cheeky, but hey, what the hell?
Well, those young coaches will like it.
Yeah.
I'll say, who's that bloke?
Yeah, they must think I know something. Yeah, it does grab attention. Funnily enough, not in a bad way yet, but anyway, I'm sure someone will have an opinion, as they do. Anyway, look, let's wind up. We've gone on way too long. The next time we will be chatting, because it's a nothing weekend. Well, it's not a nothing weekend. There'll be
it's a rest weekend.
I'm sure. It's a rest from racing, but I'm sure plenty of activity will be happening on the waterways, training-wise and other stuff. But we'll be catching up Tuesday week, tomorrow week, for our live show at 8 p.m, I think. Yes, 8 p.m, Tuesday week, live on Facebook.
I better have a haircut.
Yeah, I better.
Better look like you, mate, and look bald and attractive.
We'd love a bit of, you know.
Yeah,
as I always say, anyone can grow hair. It takes a real man to lose it. Anyway, on that note, we'll leave it for now, and see you in just over a week's time. See you, Alan. See you, Joe.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.